Good evening, everybody. It's Bryony. I am going to give it a couple of... Jada's here. Right. I need to press record because I forgot to do that. I forgot to do that, everybody, last month. And that caused some considerable anxiety in the Mental Health Mates camp. Welcome everybody to the 4th Mental Health Mates at Home. And this month we have the fantastic Jada Sezer. And we are going to discuss all things Celebrate You, which is the Vitality London 10K that is happening next month. In which it's all about running for your head and your heart. Like, I'll talk a bit more about it in a moment. Just a few, what's the word? You have to, everyone, I'm going to just start with a moment of mental health honesty here, which is that I don't know how many people on this call right now take antidepressants, but I do, and occasionally, I on Thursday night I realized I was running out, and I would run out over the weekend, but of course the pharmacy and the GPs were shut because it was Easter, so I accidentally went into withdrawal over the weekend, which was really unpleasant. I don't know, Jada, if you've ever taken antidepressants, but it was like brain zaps, brain fog. So if I make no sense today, because I literally managed to get some this afternoon, that's why. Okay, everyone? And I like to put my hands, like my cards, I'm mixing my metaphors. That is a symptom of antidepressant withdrawal. I like to put my cards on the table and be honest. So anyway, Mental Health Mates at Home, which is something that we came up with during the lockdown. Mental Health Mates is a peer support group that I set up 5 years ago, where people could go and walk and talk without fear of judgment. Now, obviously, people, the amazing walks that have been going on around the country have not been able to happen over the last year because of the pandemic. They've been operating a lot on Zoom, although many are coming back now. And if you go to mentalhealthmates.co.uk, all the information for all the walks that are live are there. But we realized there was a place for online community for people that maybe weren't ready to get out and go to the walks. And we could bring Mental Health Mates into your home, which is where Mental Health Mates at Home came in. And so we speak to different people each month. And I was so thrilled to have Jada come along. So you can, the whole point of this is it's a chat, it's a conversation. We want you, the viewers, to ask questions. It would be great if you could ask them in the Q&A box. If you look at the bottom, there is a chat box, which is where you would usually ask questions. But what happens is that ends up getting filled up really quickly, and then I can't see the questions and they get lost. If you put them in the Q&A box here, we can, and Karen has tried it out. Jacqueline, hi Jacqueline. That's where I can ask Jada questions, or you can ask me a question, and yeah, so that's kind of what it is. We will be chatting for the next hour or so. Jada, could you, I have known you for many years, and we'll talk a bit about how we met, but can you just sum up who you are, what you do, what you stand for everyone on the webinar?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Jada. I'm a plus size model. I have been doing that for over 10 years. I was one of the first curvy models in the UK. I'm an advocate for mental health. Ran the marathon in my underwear with this lady right here. And
tonight.
Yeah, for once. I'm about to embark on a yoga teacher training course. I'm on the constant journey of finding inner peace and just being a better version of myself every day, and also being okay in the versions that aren't the best as well, and feeling comfortable in that space. I took on a diploma in neuroplasticity and really fascinated with the psychology and neuroscience of how our brains work. I'm no expert, but I find that fascinating. And I have a online series called Why We Feel This, where I talk to professionals and neuroscientists and psychologists about what actually goes on in our brain. And I would say I'm a lifelong student dedicated to seeking out knowledge and understand more about the inner workings of our minds. Because it's a it's a complete mystery, isn't it? I feel like I know it, and then I'm like, I need to learn some more.
You know, the brain is, like they say, is one of biology's greatest mysteries. You know, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we have, when we talk about organs, we accept that they're complicated, but we can sort of physically, we can do operations on them, provide medication for them. But when it comes to the brain, which is in control of the whole shebang, there is so much we don't know, and yet and the stuff that it affects, we don't think of it in the same way. It is amazing. And the neuroplasticity thing, I just read the most fantastic book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by a doctor called Gabor Mate, and it's about addiction, but it's a theory that lots of addicts and alcoholics, they didn't develop enough dopamine receptors in their brains when they were tiny for whatever reason. Anyway, I'm going off. We need to talk about Celebrate You, because that's why we're here. So to explain Celebrate You, so Jada and I met now 4 years ago. Jada, did you know that? It's coming up 4 years ago. We met, I'd just run my first London Marathon, and we met over a bra table in Lululemon in Spitalfields Market, and we were going on like some influencers weekend with Lululemon. It was all about yoga and all that sort of stuff. And we met, and we were like, oh, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And then I explained I'd just done a marathon, and Jada said to me, wow, I'd love to do a marathon. Will you do one with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do another marathon. Like, what am I talking about? But we loved the idea as curvier women. Jada is a plus size model, even though, you know, we're now seeing plus is such a useless term. Do you know what I mean? Given that people are all different shapes and sizes, but it was back then we were really keen to show that exercise is for everyone, that you don't have to look a certain way. And we were very conscious, I think, of that at that Lululemon Influencers weekend, that we were the curvier ones, and there were lots of fantastic, amazing people, but very often fitness models look a certain way, right? And we didn't look that way. So Jada and I got chatting, we became friends, and then we started training for the London Marathon 2018. And at first it was just going to be me and Jada running together, me passing on the knowledge I'd learned at the first marathon. And then we were training. I remember we were running through Putney along the river in London, weren't we? And it was like the beast from the east. It was really cold. And I remember saying to Jada, why don't we do it in our underwear to really hammer home the point that people of all shapes and body sizes can be into, you know, can do exercise. And we were discovering, and I was discovering all over again, how liberating running was after decades of doing exercise as a form of punishment, after decades of using exercise as a way to shrink myself rather than grow myself, you know, doing it for the losses and not the gains. And so eventually, and I will let Jada come in and speak, she's like, why have you invited me here, Bryony, if you're just going to talk?
No, I love it. I love reliving this story again through you. It's a great reminder. Carry on.
And eventually in April 2018, which was the hottest London Marathon on record, I do believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We ran the London Marathon in our underwear. And it was, the response we got was absolutely bloody incredible. We raised a vast amount of money for Heads Together, the mental health charity. And I remember we'd gone on Good Morning Britain, hadn't we, on the Friday, 2 days before. And Ben Shepherd was, you can still, if you Google it, I almost want to kind of share it. It was like, what, Ben Shepherd and Kate Garraway going, oh, hello, ladies. Looking back, I think, what were we doing? But we were perfectly happy. Because I remember thinking, well, this is what elite runners run in this kind of stuff. Why couldn't we? But the response we got on the day, I don't know if you remember, like someone had come and they made like banners for us, and it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, going into the studio of Good Morning Britain, you forget that it's going to be broadcast out to thousands of people because there's only a handful of people in the studio. And when you and I were talking about it and training, we were just, I think we did one training day in Ibiza in sunshine, and it was just me and you around these quiet side roads where we tested out the underwear to see if it was going to hold everything in. And also we practiced and learned how to get around the chafing.
Yeah, big
But
issue.
on the day of the marathon and being in the middle of central London half naked, I can't say that I took that in my stride. It was petrifying, but there was something incredibly liberating once you got over the hurdle of, oh my God, everyone's seeing me in my knickers.
It was like incredible. And Jada, what I loved about Jada was like, most people doing long distance running, they have to drink these disgusting gels for energy, but Jada, they made you feel sick, didn't they? So Jada
Yeah.
backpack, she had like flapjacks, sausage rolls.
Yeah, I think if anyone is training to do any sort of long distance running, I know that there are some rules, but sometimes the rules don't necessarily work for you. And for me, Haribo's made me feel sick, those gels made me feel sick. And I truly believe just do what works for you, what gets you through. A lot of running that length is in your mind. I think even accomplishing a lot of things is in your mind. And having sausage rolls, veggie ones in my bag, that worked. And I also had a playlist. I also knew that talking to different types of strangers and getting to know their stories was going to get me through, because we wasn't running fast enough for me to not be able to talk.
We were.
And you know what? The whole point was get to the end. And I think that was my biggest accomplishment ever, just putting yourself like to that distance. And yeah, I mean, who needs to abide by the rules of running when you can just do what works for you?
And that was after that we met up with a lovely lady at London Marathon events called Penny, who has become a really good friend, and she was they were so supportive, weren't they, of what we'd done, because London Marathon is all about kind of, it's very special marathon, and that it was one of the first marathon to do fun running, fundraising on a big scale, and to be like, you don't have to be an elite to come and run a marathon. And Penny was really interested in taking this kind of concept on and spreading it, because it really sparked something in people. I remember that people, just the messages we got from people, and I remember Dame Kelly Holmes was like cheering us on. It was like bizarre. And Penny, we met. Do you remember we met for a coffee in the days when you could. We met in a posh hotel called the Corinthia in London. And another story, which this has got nothing to do with Celebrate You, but as we were walking in, there was a guy playing the piano, and I was like, that looks a lot like Jeff Goldblum. And he looked at us and was like, I am Jeff Goldblum. Do you remember?
And then Bryony proceeded to sit on his lap.
And apparently he's like, he does jazz piano and he comes and practices on that. I was like, this is bizarre. Anyway, we decided, once we were emboldened by sitting on Jeff Goldblum's lap, well, I was anyway, another dream achieved in the company of Jada. And we were like, let's do it. Let's do this again. But instead of the marathon, because marathon is a long way, no shit, Bryony, 26.2 miles. Not everyone can commit to it. And it's a scary thing to have to commit to. And so Penny suggested that we do it. Try and get women together to do it over the Vitality London 10K, which was in May 2019. And we decided to call it Celebrate You, because that was what it was about. It wasn't about getting a PB, which is personal best, I think. It wasn't about running a race. And for a long time, I think we'd had this idea of running a race, so to speak, or an event that was about running for your mental health, and the stuff that you got for your physical health was just a bonus. Because for me personally, the moment that I started running for the gains and not the losses, for the clarity it gave me, the space it gave me, that was the moment I fell in love with it, and I wanted to do it, and I still do it. And the most amazing thing was that Celebrate You, May 2019, we had nearly 1,000 women running through the streets of London in their underwear. Women of all different shapes and sizes and experiences, women with cancer, women, you know, with stoma bags. You know, it was a fantastic experience again. And of course, again, this must be, and we did it last year, obviously pandemic. The thing about Celebrate You now is that we've sort of done the underwear thing. Lots of people are put off, they don't want to do that, but we do really want to hammer home the point of running for your head and your heart. And last year it was virtual, obviously, but we all did it together again, didn't we? Through that, we ran it, didn't we? It was pouring with rain.
Yeah, socially distanced. I think there was a group of 5 of us.
Me, and you, Deborah, Balbabe. Who else was there? Your friend Jade.
Sharifa.
And
Jade.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it's happening again, guys. And it's happening next month, end of next month. Now, unfortunately, it can't be an event. So again, it's virtual, which means by virtual, it doesn't mean you just sit home and play a computer game. And you go, yeah, run 10K. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. But it's about, it means you can do it any way you want. You just measure the thing on an app and send it. And then you get a medal. You get a fantastic T-shirt. But the other thing that the Celebrate You organisers have done this year for the first time is they've created a training plan, which is, it's not just like a physical training plan, it's also a training plan which boosts your mental health as you go through it. So as well as telling you when you should be running and how far and how long, it's like, this is a podcast, a mental health podcast you can listen to. These are some amazing kind of well-being things that you can look up. And I really love that because it is such an important tool for mental health, isn't it, Jada?
Yeah, I mean, running gave me a sense of confidence and clarity, like you said, that I don't think any other sport has given me. Being able to just get out and accomplish a run of a certain distance, or be able to tick off a run that I had on my training plan and do that all by myself, was something that I'd never had to, would ever put myself out to do before. I was terrified. I think that everyone's looking at me. I'd run too slow. I look ridiculous. And then once you get over that and you come back, and not only have you got all of that adrenaline leave your body because you've sweat it out, you've run it out. And so my mind feels better. I feel calmer. But also I'm like, oh my God, I just did that. I took myself out and I went on a run and I ran past all those people that were in their coffee shops eating their pizza and all of that. And I came back and I just did that. And I think it gives you this real sense of confidence that is 360. It's in your head, but it's also in your body. And I'm just really excited to do this again. I know it's virtually with everyone, but again, it feels like you're doing it as a team. We're building up 10 weeks to 10K together, although we've got 8 weeks now.
We're in week 3, I think, now, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I don't think that should pick. I'm going to double check that you can still sign up, because you must be able to. I'm sure you can. But it doesn't matter. I think the whole point is that you can walk it. I should really prep for things like this before I come on. But I think that's why people really like us at Mental Health Amazing. We're more relaxed. I didn't know Celebrate You was a Kylie Minogue song.
We need to make our own song and take over.
We need to get Kylie involved.
Oh yeah, definitely. But either way, you don't have to run it. You can walk it, you could jog it, you can half walk, half run, skip it. I mean, when we did it last year, we was doing 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. And if you're anything like me, I actually quite like having a goal to work towards. Otherwise, I'm like, oh God, what am I doing out here running? I mean, before it becomes a habit, setting yourself a goalpost for me is a really good motivator. I don't know about you, Bryony, but yeah.
I mean, does that work? Still enter. And I was going to say that, I consider myself a seasoned runner, but not a fast one at all. But I still, I probably run 3 or 4 times a week, and 3 of those runs will be me running for 5 minutes, walking for 2 minutes, running for 5 minutes. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm out here doing it. And then I make my last one is like I run, and then because each week then I'm like, wow, Bryony, you can run 5k all by yourself without stopping. And I'm like, oh yeah, and I keep remembering it each week. But you know, I think on a mental health level, that thing of, you know, what mental illnesses do is they isolate you, and they tell you can't. Yeah, they tell you can't. And that thing of following a training program and just going, okay, I just have to do this, I don't want to do this. And that's another thing I want to say to everyone, is that no one ever wants to go for a run, but nobody ever regrets it. So if you're sitting and going, I don't want to do it, just do it. I promise you'll be over the moon afterwards. But so just doing what I was told and following that plan. I remember with my first marathon, and each week that sense of, oh my God, my body I just did something. I just did a little bit more than I thought I could. Each week you do that. You're like, wow, I just ran. I didn't know I could do that. And I did it. And it doesn't matter what distance you're doing. It can be couch to 5k. You know, you still get that same sense. And I know that because I can let things go in terms of exercising, and I have to start again from the beginning, you know, and I'm doing couch to 5k again. And I'm like, what? You know, but it still feels great every time. And I think that other thing on a mental health level is, I remember once we did a training run. It was like 2 miles running along the Regent's Canal in London, and it was really cold and bleak. And I remember we got to about 11 miles, and that feeling, that runner's high they talk about, is unbeatable. And I was like, wow, I just did that with my feet. I did that all by myself. I did it with Jada, obviously, but I did that all by myself. I didn't have to go to a pub or go online and buy things, or you know to do that. I created that with my own body, and the ramifications of that, the way that sort of rolls out over into all aspects of your life is really fantastic. And for me, it's become like it's a ground, it's like a kind of, it's a basic that in my life, I have to take my antidepressants because otherwise I go a bit funny. I see my therapist once a fortnight. I have to go to AA meetings to keep me sober 3 times a week. And I have to run 3 times a week, or 2 to 3 times a week. I have to do it because it just, those little things. And you may think, God, that sounds like an awful lot. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a hell of a lot less hassle than not doing it and ending up in a place that my brain will make me do. And for me, running is as important to my mental health as the antidepressants or the AA meetings. You know, it's like, it's really crucial, because the endorphin hit and the, you know, is huge, and the community and the sense of community. Like I always, you hinted at it earlier there, like at the beginning of starting to run, where you feel like, oh God, people are going to be laughing at me or looking at me. And I haven't encountered, I mean, I don't obviously encounter that many exercise communities because running is my thing, but like the incredible people that they just want the best for you. They don't care about how fast you're going, or, you know, I think about like Run Dem crew, who are incredible, and how supportive they were, especially of you, you know, when you were doing marathon, and like really seasoned runners who are super speedy and super fast, and they're like, I don't care how fast you are, you know, it's not about that, it's just about getting people out there. But also, like, if I think about the friendships I've made through running, like our friendship has come about through running. And I run now with my friend Emma, who lives around the corner, who has she has secondary breast cancer, and our friendship has come about through running, you know. And it's very much like, I remember for us, it was a thing where we would go out and we'd sort of shoot the breeze, you know. It was as much about the ranting as it was about the running, right?
Yeah, that's why I say I love having those chats, because time flies as well, and your body's taking you that distance, and before you know it, you're like, oh wow, that was like 1.5 miles, that was 3k, and you're quickly catching up, and I remember when I first got into running, so it was shortly after we met at the Lululemon event, and then I joined Run Them crew because I was too scared to just go for a run. Silly, but I was. And it's crazy how you can put these like barriers on yourself that are invisible, and they don't really exist, it's just what you've told yourself. But running with a group forced me to get out and pound the pavements, and we did it. And my first run was, I think it was like 5k, and I'd never run before, let alone run that distance. And I remember the Charlie Duck, who started the group and who creates communities around the world for running, he was like, I'm not going to leave you. I was like the last one at the very back at the slowest group. And it was like, what a wasting your time. Everyone had got back like 3 hours before me, or well, like an hour and a half before me. But I remember it was the first time thinking, wow, I've just done something really fun, and it didn't involve like going out for like a meal or having coffee. Not that any of those things are bad, but it was also doing something that was great for me. Socializing over dinner is great as well, don't get me wrong, and I can't wait until we can bloody do that again. But doing something like running and socializing, I was like, oh my god, I've never experienced this. You know, you go to the gym and everyone's sort of in their zone, or you go to yoga and everyone's in their zone, but something about running felt like it was a group sport, even though you were on your own as well.
Yeah,
totally. I love that.
I've seen it a lot during lockdown as well. Like you see that, you know, out and about, people run, you know, they're exercising together and they're chatting, and it's you know, and I think about the support as well that we provide. You know, like I remember just 2 examples off the top of my head with you, Jada. Like I remember that marathon, I got sunstroke, I think, about mile 16, and you just put on the Spice Girls and fed me vegan sausage rolls and water, and we got back in it, because you know it can be difficult because you go through different emotions at different times, but it's kind of about holding each other through that.
Yeah.
The other thing that Celebrate You in our underwear in 2019, when I was on my period, sorry for anyone, I don't know why I'm apologizing, I'm a woman, I have periods. And it was so heavy, wasn't it? And you were having to help, it was hilarious. And I remember that marathon, we were like, that 10K, we were like, we will see the last people across the line of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can't wait until we do it again, because we will be at the back of the pack, guiding you all for hopefully next week. Going back to something you were saying about like your AA meetings and all the things you have set up, I like to call that like a mental health toolkit, and I never realized that it's something that I needed or something I needed to physically compile. But I realized that as I got older, that there's certain things I need for myself that I haven't necessarily been specifically told when I was a child growing up, and my parents didn't say like, this is going to help you with your mental health, because as far as like my parents' knowledge of mental health and the way that they articulated it, it was like, oh, they've got bad nerves. Like that was as the extent of what we knew about our minds. And I remember thinking, okay, so I know what makes me feel good. I need structure, I need sleep, I need, like, there's certain pillars of mental health that I really needed. And to be honest, sometimes they go out of the window, and I need to bring it right back to basics. And I've got a diary. I bought a diary from the start of lockdown last week. I literally carry it everywhere with me. This is it. It says making it happen, but it's not about necessarily like being the most proactive version of yourself. It just, sometimes I need to write down day by day every single piece of activity that I do when I feel overwhelmed and stressed, because I think looking after yourself, looking after everyone else, and taking care of your mind can be like the last thing, and life can just get on top of you, and you're keeping all these spinning plates upright and not crashing down. So having a diary for me has been such a great tool that's in my mental health toolkit to break down each task. And I think that incorporating that into your life it could be really helpful, as well as like all the meetings and stuff like you as advising Bryony.
Something you've just said there has made me really teary, and I don't know, like something like, I don't know, I just felt really connected to you, and like sorry, and it's like, you know, that thing of having to, and I'm sure this will resonate with lots of people, but having to like literally, I remember another friend saying to me that my mental health, they've had to do like a checklist every day, and it's boring and it's tedious, and they wish they didn't have to. But throughout this pandemic, that's what they've had to do. And I've got above my head right now, I have post-it notes that say things like, you need to go on a meeting, you need to, sorry, I don't know why that made me,
No, but you know, it can be overwhelming because life is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're adults, you have to look after yourself and do everything. And it's not like when you're a kid, you can be told, go here, go to bed at this time, make sure you eat your veg. You have to say it to yourself. And I think those little reminders we need sometimes. And it's the practice of, I don't want to say the self-care, love, because I think it's been used completely out of context and has been commodified now, but it is those little self-care practices, to that genuine love for yourself, of like, you deserve to go and get your 8 hours sleep, go and put yourself to sleep, go and have your bath and go and chill and get into bed early, don't stay up.
You know what I'm like about getting into bed early?
Oh yeah, you get into bed at like 6 p.m.
I would if I could, yeah. But it's also, I think, you know, I was thinking back to about this time last year when you and I were doing some lives on Instagram for Mental Health Mates, and how I remember you saying something in one of them and it making me cry, and like, but how much is, you know, like I love that the kind of connect the whole way through we've carried on with this Celebrate You thing, and we've kept it up, and we've tried, and we know how much it helps us, and how much it, you know, and to hear everyone's stories of, you know, of training for it, or getting groups of girlfriends together to do it, you know, and I think that it is having those kind of constant grounded things to keep you sort of like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can't anchor you know, and for me running is that. And I'm really excited about doing it again virtually, because we will be able to run, me and you, we will be able to run together, and we will be able to get a little group together, won't we? Because it's the rule, I lose track of all of the rules, but it's rule of 6, isn't it, outside? Well, hopefully it will still be rule of 6, and hopefully it will warm up, but there is nothing better than going. Also, if anyone's feeling like nervous about signing up, and please do sign up. It's, you know, it doesn't cost I think, you know, we've got lots of mental health, lots of the ward leaders kind of organising groups and stuff, but it's only £19 to enter, which might sound like, oh, but that's a lot of money, but you get an amazing, like, running, like, New Balance you know, t-shirt worth a lot more than that. You get a medal, and you get all of those other things out of it that might, and you know, and you get the plan, and you know, do it with, you know, plan to do it with a friend. And if it's just walking, also just think about it of like, oh, it's like, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours walking. That's what it is. And look, Abby, lovely Abby, who runs Mental Health Mates Reading, she is plotting MHM Reading's route for Saturday, the 5th of June. So you do it between, I think it's May the 29th and June the 5th. Again, I wish I'd, sorry, Saturday the 29th of May. I got it right. 29th of May and 5th of June, 6th of June. And you can do it wherever you want. Well, obviously you can't do it abroad. Well, unless you live abroad, then you can do it abroad, but you can't like get on a plane and do it, because we're not legally allowed to do that. But you can do it where look, V, here we go, they're coming in. V's going to be running in Brussels. And I love the fact that people are and asking if anyone else is running over here. Jacqueline is doing it with MHM Orpington. Like, get a group together. And also, I often see this in the comments underneath whenever I post on Instagram about Celebrate You. Someone going, oh, I really want to do it, but I'm scared to do it by myself. And someone, and you know, and then they go, well, I live in Cheltenham. And then someone goes, well, I live in Cheltenham too. Why don't we do it together? You know, and you see these like friendships, and certainly from the day in 2019, lovely groups of friends, kind of, because there was something very collegiate and coming together about like, oh, we're running in our underwear, like, let's, you know, everyone got together and had a fantastic bonding time. Emma says she's going to start an MHM group local to her. She's just building up her confidence to do it. Emma, that's a fantastic thing. And you know, I love, and this is why I'm so pleased that you know, Celebrate You is in association with Mental Health Mates, because well, obviously Mental Health Mates is a really important thing to me, but it's also, it's so aligned with what we do. Do you know what I mean? It's about exercise for your head and your heart. So listen, There are a few questions coming in, and please do type out, ask us anything you want. I say that, maybe not anything. No, you can ask us. I'll ask us anything you want, and if it's appropriate, we'll answer it. Jacqueline asks, Jada, what is neuroplasticity?
Okay, well, when I first started, I was like, I have no idea. And from what I've gauged from my research is that the brain is an organ, but it also functions like a muscle, and your brain can grow and produce neurogenesis and create new synapses in the cells. So you can like grow your cells, grow the matter in your brain by doing things like putting yourself in new experiences, ones that you have, when you get into like a flow state, when you're like the sense of time, you're just lost in time, or when you go to a different country and you're curious about like all the new surroundings, even new experiences, new emotions that you're feeling, like that can spark a new cell.
So stuff that we haven't been able to, a lot of stuff that, it's interesting talking about that, because I do feel that lockdown has had that, on our neuroplasticity. We're not having the sort of sparks in our brains that we normally would. Like
I've lost so many brain cells, I'm sure of it. Like I'm getting anxious about holding conversations when I go back into the real world, because I feel like that skill. I mean, the other day I walked into the office that I have, a co-working space, and somebody was like, "Hey buddy," from across the room, and I was like, "Yeah." That's, I don't know why I said yeah, but again, it's like social efficacy gone out the window. But with neuroplasticity, you can grow that, you can evolve, you can grow your brain and adapt, and your brain will constantly do things like rewire itself. So I often found it fascinating reading about when we get stuck in a negative thought loop. When you think something's going to happen, you catastrophize it, and then you kind of go round and round in circles, and you start looking inwards rather than thinking about outwards. So you're kind of you internalize a lot of problems. And that's, whenever I've had stressful events in my life, like that's where I tend to go. I kind of catastrophize something that hasn't happened yet. And to actually break the loop, you have to break your state. So going out for a run, or going out for a walk, or calling up somebody that will take your mind off it and make you laugh, like those things can get you out that negative loop. And neuroplasticity is one of those things that has taught me those little hacks, if you want to call it. So yeah, long-winded answer.
So actually signing up to do and Celebrate You would help your neuroplasticity.
Yeah, I mean, it has so many benefits on your mental health.
Neela, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, asks, do you have a podcast re neuroplasticity? Or
so because I'm not a specialist, I've only done a little diploma on it. What I did was bring people onto my Instagram, and I've got an IG series called Why We Feel This, where I talk to the experts on why we feel certain things like anxiety, how we manage stress, where does stress come from, where is it produced, how does that adrenaline affect our biology and neurology. And they go into more of the scientific detail. I'm a bit of a scientist at heart, but I've just stopped studying for the last decade. Did my master's in child psychotherapy and left and went into the fashion and content creation space. But I'm slowly moving back into it. And on the Why We Feel This IGTV series, every Sunday we talk to somebody, and a specialist, a psychologist and neuroscientist, and they go into answering all of the questions that, and they break it down, because I think some of this information can be really heady and it doesn't really make sense. Yeah. And so actually asking those really basic questions sometimes can is kind of what I'm there for, to try and make that academia more accessible to just everyday people.
And you had did you have a breathing expert at the weekend?
Or? Yeah. So yeah, I had a guy called Richie Bostock, and he's called the Breath Guy on Instagram, and he spoke about how breathing can change your physiology. As we know, we have to, we breathe every day, but actually breathing in different areas. So like when I tend to get stressed, I breathe very much up here, and then eventually if you keep breathing up in that area of your body, then even when the stress is gone, your body will keep this almost this body memory of still breathing up in your top half. So you never actually get a deep enough breath in. And so by putting your fingers just underneath your chest on your diaphragm and feeling it go out when you breathe, that can then reset and actually calm you down. So it's a neuroscientist said to me, you can't calm down the mind by using the mind and just telling yourself, just stop thinking this, think something else. But if you change your breath, it can. So things like that I just find fascinating, because I'm like, wow, why don't we get taught that?
3-4-5 breathing is a really easy thing to do. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee talks about a lot if you look it up, but it's breathing in for 3, hold for 4, and breathe out for 5. And that now forgive me if I'm wrong, but because I'll come up with it, but it stimulates the para something or other nervous system, which
parasympathetic.
But the other thing is that I find actually what's really interesting is that running, sorry, we always back to running.
No, it's important.
At the beginning of a run, I'm like, once I get into my flow, I find, oh my God, I can breathe properly again. Like my whole chest seems to open up, and it's like my body. It's really interesting because the first 20 minutes of a run, I absolutely hate. And I'm like, I'm going to die any minute. This is rubbish. Why do I do this? What am I doing? And then it's like my body kicks in and starts producing the endorphins, the painkillers, the natural stuff. And my lungs start to work, and they're all working as they should be. And it's dreamy. It's absolutely dreamy. And it's funny because when I talk about breathing and breathlessness, I suddenly can become breathless. And that's how powerful the mind is.
Yeah.
But running for me is actually a really good way to it can almost be meditative.
Yeah, and reset the breath, because when we're stressed, and Richie says it in the podcast that we recorded on Sunday, and you can go and rewatch it on my Instagram, but he talks about when you're stressed, your breathing does tighten up, your chest does tighten up, because actually light breathing is what our bodies need to do as a stress response, because you need to just get away, fight or flight, and that's our biology and responding. And it's almost like we're trying to live in the 21st century, but we still have these really Neanderthal bodies that are still walking around responding to the saber-toothed tiger threats, but really we're just trying to cross the road. And we're trying to hack that. And things like people saying, oh, don't cry over that, or don't get stressed over your boss firing you or whatever, and you're trying to like suck it up. But actually we need to let it out, we need to cry, we need to do those heavy breath work, breathing exercises. And I think just is recognizing expressing emotion is so necessary to our survival. Like if dogs go into a state of shock, they like shake it off and then they get back to it. It's like, but we don't, we're kind
shaking is a really good thing. I went on a retreat once and it was all about shaking out your stress. And actually I've read this and something called, I think it's called stripping. No, it's like nervous reactions that people have to and I didn't even realize that was a thing, but when I was a kid I would do that when I was stressed, and I can really feel that in my body. Anyway, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours, and everyone's like there's some more questions. I have to get through the questions from the lovely people. Actually, this isn't a question. This is just a really cool comment from Claire Gillibrand. Apologize again if I pronounced your surname wrong. Jada, absolute marathon hero. Yes, you are. Laura and I, she's a marathon hero too, ran virtual London. And for the last 8 miles, I had to stop at every shop and petrol station for a snack. She has made me my very own snack hat for October.
Love that.
Presumably doing it
and
again.
I like that you've become the connoisseur of the petrol stations.
Also, can I just say, Claire, like legend, running the virtual London Marathon, because I had the option to do that last October, and I'm like, you want me to run 26.2 miles without like people on the side of the road cheering me on and handing me Haribo? I'm like, no, that doesn't sound good to me. So Jada and I did it. We were like, come on, girls, you can do it. And I remember on the day of the virtual London Marathon just seeing these people, and it was pouring with rain and horrible, and I just thought, you were absolute legends, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, Jacqueline asks, do either of you use special running trainers? I'm going to answer that first, if that's okay, Jada.
Yeah.
I would say if anyone's going to get into running, if you're planning to get into running, because really the only thing you do have to buy is trainers. There are loads of shops where you can go, like Runners Need, Run and Become, all over the country. Obviously, they'll be opening next week. And that you go in there and you run on a treadmill or you run outside, and they'll see how your gait is, whether you overpronate, whether you don't, whether you you need support shoes. And that to me, honestly, is one of the best. You may think, oh God, these shoes are really expensive. You know, like I don't want to spend £130 on a pair of running trainers, or you can get much cheaper ones, you know, or £70. But it's the best investment, honestly, because if you wear and run in a pair of trainers that aren't, like, I overpronate, so I need stability shoes. Otherwise, my hips and everything have gone within a week of running without stability shoes on. And it's one of the best things you can do. And you can go and have the kind of the gait analysis done in a store for free. They won't charge you anything. And then you can go and look online for better deals. There's loads of there are amazing websites that have incredible deals on, you know, and stuff like that. And that would be my tip in terms of like specialist trainers, because that's a really important thing. It's nothing like a nice pair of trainers to make you feel like you're flying. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. That was I wouldn't say it's a certain brand or a special trainer per se. It's just the one that fits your body. I know, similar to you, I overpronate as well and need a thicker sole and a bigger, chunkier, sturdier support around my ankle. Otherwise, I topple over and injure me.
Don't, whatever you do, pick your running trainers on the ones that you like the look of best. Like that's like don't you know, like I have, honestly, my running trainers are hideous and I don't care. Like that's the sign of a real runner, is like, oh, I'm just in these horrible, like luminous, like I think my trainers are like neon, because I guess if I'm running in
mine just look like clown shoes, so but you know, you feel like you even have more motivation because you're putting on proper shoes. Yeah, they're not fashion trainers, they're running trainers.
Something to remember is that running that trainers tend to run out of you need to replace them after every like 500 miles or something, which I've just worn out my last trainers, and I've like put aside my money for my new pair of running trainers, and I just ordered them just before we coming onto this webinar, and I am so excited for them to come. Like literally, it's highlighting my week. Adidas something or others. Anyway, so there we go. And also Jada and I, if you're worried about chafing, Body Glide.
Yeah, the best thing out there. We tried everything as well to avoid chafing, even, you know, the under here where your bra rubs, under an armpit. Body Glide is the best thing.
Can you see here?
You've got scars. Yeah.
But I've got fresh ones as well from the run I did at the weekend. So everyone's like, we did not want to come on this webinar for that. But I call them, they're like my battle scars. And I look down and I go, I have two here from the first ever half marathon I did in Paris in 2017. And I look down and I see those marks and I'm like, I ran the Paris half marathon in 2017. Aren't I a legend? Now, Emma has asked a question. She says, I've tried to reach out to Rethink Mental Illness as I need help connecting with the service to help with my mental health. I've had no response from them. Who are the next go-to organisation I should contact? Emma, I'm sorry that you are struggling with your mental health. I think that the best advice I can give to you is, first of all, have you tried a Rethink Mental Illness? Have you been trying their information line? Because that's the kind of general. But for me, the thing is that your GP is always your kind of gateway to mental health services, and is absolutely the place you should be going. I don't know what it is you need, but you can also self-refer online if you live in England, to IAPT, which stands for Improving Access to Psychological Therapies. But basically, speaking in English, because that isn't really like accessible language at all, what that means is you can go online and self-refer for things like CBT and counselling and stuff, and you don't have to go to your GP. You just need to be registered at a GP. If it's slightly more serious than that, then you should go to your GP and look at secondary services, and rethink. Obviously, they're a charity, so they will be, I think that the thing to remember with charities is that they're doing their best, but they are having to get through a huge backlog at the moment. Especially the other organisation, which is really great if you just need crisis text support, is Shout, which I mention every time. And what you do is you text Shout, and I'm going to write this in the box. Text Shout. Would help if I could spell it, to 8. I'm going to just Google this quickly again. I'm really I think it's 82. Sorry about this. This is really not very. 85258. Text Shout to 85258, and then you get instant chat service from a trained someone who's trained for crisis advice. So that's or obviously the Samaritans, who are on, again, I'm sorry, I should have these things written down and put on my, but I hope that you realise that I'm just keeping it real. You can contact the Samaritans on, that should come up, 1111, sorry about this, everyone. I can't spell tonight. Right, 116. 123. Right, there we go. I've done my necessary outreach work there. But listen, it's been so nice to chat to you. And again, I wish that we could like chat in person. Of course we can't. We will when we go for our run between the 29th of May and the 6th of June. If you guys want to sign up to Celebrate You, you need to go to the website, and I'm gonna listen to me. I honestly, I'm the least professional person ever. The website for that is vitalitylondon10,000.co.uk. I'm going to type this in: vitalitylondon10,000.co.uk, and you can sign up there to take part in Celebrate You and run with us, even if it's virtually. And hopefully, please, pandemic gods, we will be able to all run together at a proper, like, centralized event next year. You don't have to wear underwear. I mean, obviously it helps to wear underwear, but you can wear clothes over your underwear. We will be doing that. And really, it's about running for your head as well as your heart. It's about, it doesn't matter how quickly you do it, how slowly you do it. It doesn't matter if you don't run it at all and you just walk it. You can crawl it if you want. Just make sure that you don't crawl on any roads or anything like that, or get in the way of oncoming. And make sure you put lots of
elbow pads
on your elbow. Yeah. You can skip it if you want. You can do whatever you want. Like, I mean, just as long as it's legal, obviously. The whole point is go out there, have a bloody good laugh and good fun, and then remember you're amazing. And even if you just go out by yourself, trot out, go for a walk, put on some headphones, listen to some of Jada's IG lives or some lovely meditations or something like that. Like, just think that's something nice you've done for you. Celebrate. You are a legend. I feel we should finish Celebrate You with my customary sperm talk.
Yeah, also, just before you go into that, sometimes I will go out and wear like my sports bra, my leggings, and I won't be planning on going for a run. And I've gone out and I'm like, I'm just going for a walk because I just can't take a run today. And I've got my music in, and then I'm like, oh, I feel like I could go for a bit of a run now. I'm in the zone. And then you find yourself running. So don't be caught unprepared. Go out in a gym kit if you're just going for a walk, and you might just feel like jogging a little bit.
Okay, top tips. I won't go into my spam thing because I've realised I've done it so many times. The point of it quickly is just to say that you were all amazing. You were all miracles. There are like 1 in a million billion chances of any of us existing. Like, it's so difficult to conceive a child. And so you deserve celebrating. Come and run virtually with us is what I was going to say. But let's finish with some top tips of favourite things, like music, podcasts, all of that, I think, to listen to. But I want to confess, my secret thing is that when I go out running by myself, I'll put on some music, and very often I'll put shuffle on my Apple Music, and it will play like Disney songs because of my daughter, who's only 7, which will be 8 actually on Friday. And or it'd be like High School Musical, and I'm like, these are the best things to run to. So I'm like running along to "We're all in this together." But then what I also do is I imagine that I'm a contestant on Strictly Come Dancing, and that I'm dancing to the songs, and the judges are like, "Oh, Bridie, bravo, 10 points." And before you know it, you've run 5K. It's complete fantasy delusion. But it's all I've got at the moment, I'm afraid, Jada.
That's so funny, because I don't know, but I love the good old long, heartfelt ballads of, like, you know, your heart will, and like the slow tempo allows me to not feel like I can't keep up. So that's the trick. And sometimes I like to be in my feelings a little bit and, you know, feel like I'm pushing through, rather than, you know, that kind of upbeat song can trick your mind and get you in the mood. Sometimes that does work. I've got a running playlist that's like 150 beats per minute, but then I do go to like my slow jams, the real soulful Celine Dion's. However, The Greatest Showman is probably my most played album soundtrack.
Oh God, we did a lot of running to that. This is me.
Yeah. Oprah's Super Soul Sundays is a lovely podcast that I always go to if you're more into listening to something like a conversation, to just like feeling like you're a fly on the wall whilst you're running. That's a good one.
Another really good person, another good one is it's not a podcast, it's an app called Insight Timer, and it's free. Great, and it provides lots of free meditations, and there's a woman on there who I absolutely love called Sarah Blondin. And honestly, listen to that, you will be running, crying, like it's all guided, so it's like it's just fantastic. Jacqueline says you should be playing "We Are the Champions."
Yeah, love that one.
I did used to imagine like my the song. I was like crossing the finish line of the marathon. I think by the time we crossed the finish line, we were just so grateful to be
stopping
live. Listen, Claire Gillibrand has entered.
Yay!
Jada, it's been so nice chatting to you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Bryony.
Got excited hiccups.
I took your breath away.
You literally took my breath away. Thank you, everyone, for coming along tonight and listening to us. And if you've been watching on YouTube, thank you. We will be back next month with another guest. And I was discussing this with my colleague, Mental Health Mates colleague beforehand, but we want to talk to someone about, we want to get an expert on to talk about how to readjust to life after lockdown, because there are loads of people out there who are really excited about restrictions lifting, and that's great, but we also know there are a lot of people who are really anxious about it. And we really want to talk about that, because that's what we do here about Mental Health Mates. We talk honestly about mental health. So we want to get someone in who is going to come in and give you tips on how to readjust to normal life, or whatever. There's no such thing as normal, as I often say. But anyway, we'll give you more details about that. It'll be it'll maybe the first, it might be on a Tuesday, because again, it's bank holiday, isn't it? I really am not very professional. I need a script. Tonight. Jada.
Oh, well, thank you, Bryony. As always, such a pleasure. It's a nice way to catch up with you as well.
No, but we need to catch up. Look, Rachel says, first time here and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Rachel. We've thoroughly enjoyed you. Come back next month, and the month after, and the month after, and the month after. If you want to go and find out more about Jada, you can head to her Instagram page, which is
at Jada Sezer.
And if you want to sign up for Celebrate You, it's vitalitylondon10000.co.uk, or just head to our Mental Health Mates Instagram page at Mental Health Mates, or go to our website www.mentalhealthmates.co.uk and get all the all the information is there. And if you need help right now, if you're in crisis and want to chat to someone, text shout to 85258. And that, I think, is it. Thank you, everybody. Big kiss.